Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School. Today we're diving deep into the lessons from Steve Jobs on the power of purpose, how it shaped his life, his work, and how it can shape yours. So, whether you're a student, a dreamer, or someone seeking clarity in life, stay with me because this story might just change how you see the world and yourself. What's the one thing that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary legacies? It's not talent, wealth, or luck, it's purpose. Imagine this: a young college dropout, uncertain about the future, wandering through life, only to create a company that changes the world forever. That's the story of Steve Jobs, a man who didn't just live, he lived with purpose. Let's rewind to the early 1970s, a time of cultural upheaval and self-discovery in America. Amidst the era of protests, flower power, and the rise of technology, a young man named Steve Jobs was navigating his own uncertainties. Picture this: a skinny teenager, clad in turtlenecks and jeans, with unkempt hair and a restless spirit. He wasn't the Steve Jobs we celebrate today. No, this was a boy teetering on the edge of doubt, wrestling with life's biggest questions. Why am I here? What's my purpose? How do I make a difference in the world? Steve's life took a sharp turn when he decided to drop out of Reed College. Most people assumed he had all the answers, but the truth was far from it. He didn't leave because he lacked the intellect or drive. On the contrary, he felt a pang of guilt. His parents had invested their hard-earned savings in his education, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was wasting their money. Instead of attending mandatory classes, he found himself gravitating toward things that truly intrigued him. It was a bold decision, one that many saw as reckless, but for Steve, it was the first step toward discovering his purpose. But here's where it gets interesting. Even after officially dropping out, Jobs didn't pack his bags and leave campus. Instead, he stayed. He slept on the floors of friends' dorm rooms, scavenged for meals, and spent his nights immersed in the world of Reed's eclectic student culture. He didn't have a roadmap, but he had curiosity, and that was enough. He sneaked into classes that piqued his interest, not for grades, but for the sheer joy of learning. One such class was calligraphy. Now think about that for a moment. Calligraphy, an art form rooted in the precision and beauty of handwritten script. To most, it seemed irrelevant, even frivolous. What could elegant penmanship possibly have to do with computers? But for Jobs, it was transformative. The curves, the spacing, the aesthetic harmony of letters, they sparked something in him. It was a revelation, not because he saw its immediate utility, but because he saw its beauty. He later described it as the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. In that class, Steve learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, the subtle art of adjusting spaces between letters, and the history of typography. He didn't realize it at the time, but this seemingly trivial pursuit would become foundational to the design of the Macintosh computer years later. Calligraphy, you might think. What a strange detour for a future tech visionary. And yet, it was this detour that planted the seeds for a revolution in personal computing. The lesson here is profound. Purpose doesn't always announce itself with a flashing neon sign. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper, a nudge that tells you to explore, to wander, to trust the process even when the path isn't clear. Jobs himself admitted that at the time, he had no idea how calligraphy would fit into his future. He didn't study it because he had a master plan. He studied it because it intrigued him, because it felt right. And that's the beauty of purpose. It often starts as a spark of curiosity, something that feels meaningful in the moment, even if the dots don't seem to connect just yet. Jobs' time at Reed was marked by contradictions. On the one hand, he was a college dropout, wandering aimlessly without a degree or clear direction. On the other hand, he was a sponge, soaking in experiences and knowledge that would later shape his destiny. It's a reminder that the journey to purpose isn't always linear. Sometimes the most impactful moments are the ones that seem insignificant at first glance. As Steve walked the campus of Reed, with its lush green lawns and Gothic architecture, he likely felt the weight of uncertainty. But he didn't let it paralyze him. He leaned into the chaos, allowing his interests, no matter how unconventional, to guide him. Whether it was sitting in on that calligraphy class or meditating in the hills of Oregon, he was gathering the threads of a future tapestry he couldn't yet see. Years later, when Jobs introduced the Macintosh, he made sure it had beautifully designed fonts, something no computer had ever prioritized before. He said, "If I had never dropped in on that single calligraphy class in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts." Think about that. A decision that seemed random at the time, a mere whim, became a cornerstone of his legacy. This wasn't just about fonts. It was about the principle of bringing beauty and purpose to technology. Jobs believed that design wasn't just how something looked, it was how it worked. And it all began with a class he wasn't even supposed to attend, during a chapter of his life that many might have dismissed as aimless. The power of purpose isn't about having a perfect plan from the start. It's about being open to experiences, trusting your instincts, and embracing the unknown. Steve Jobs didn't find his purpose overnight. He found it piece by piece, moment by moment, by following his curiosity and letting it guide him to places he never expected. And in doing so, he changed the world, not because he always knew where he was going, but because he was willing to take the first step, even when the path ahead was unclear. Steve Jobs once famously declared, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." It's a phrase that has inspired millions, but let's take a closer look at what it truly means. Loving what you do doesn't imply that the journey will be smooth or free from challenges. In fact, purpose often walks hand in hand with struggle. It's not a golden ticket to an easy life. It's the engine that drives you forward when things get tough. Purpose doesn't eliminate obstacles. It transforms them into stepping stones. Take Apple's early days as an example. Jobs and his close friend Steve Wozniak began the company in the unlikeliest of places, a garage. Imagine the scene. Wires scattered across makeshift workbenches, the faint smell of soldering metal, and two dreamers with nothing but a vision to guide them. They didn't start Apple because they wanted to make millions of dollars. Money wasn't their primary motivator. They wanted to redefine how people interacted with technology, making it accessible, intuitive, and even enjoyable. That belief in a purpose bigger than themselves kept them working tirelessly, night after night, building not just a company, but a movement. The journey wasn't without its challenges. Apple faced skepticism, financial hurdles, and fierce competition. But the biggest trial of all came in 1985 when Jobs was ousted from the company he had co-founded. Let's pause here. Imagine being thrown out of the very thing you poured your heart and soul into. Imagine seeing your dreams taken away, not by strangers, but by the very people you trusted to build it with you. For most people, such a blow would be the end of the road, a crushing defeat. But not for Steve Jobs. In his own words, getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me. Why? Because it forced him to rediscover his purpose. It pushed him to step back, reflect, and reignite the passion that had driven him in the first place. Jobs didn't wallow in despair. He redirected his energy. He went on to create Next, a company that would later play a pivotal role in the development of modern computing. At the same time, he acquired Pixar, a small animation studio with big potential. Under his leadership, Pixar gave us Toy Story, a groundbreaking film that redefined animation and storytelling. Here's the deeper lesson. Jobs' purpose wasn't tied to a single company or a single role. His purpose was tied to his belief in innovation, creativity, and making a meaningful impact on the world. Whether it was through Apple, Next, or Pixar, his passion for bringing transformative ideas to life remained unshaken. That's the real power of purpose. It transcends circumstances. When one door closes, purpose helps you find another one. It's not about where you are today. It's about where you're headed and the belief that your work matters. But let's not romanticize this journey. Rediscovering his purpose wasn't easy for Jobs. He faced criticism, self-doubt, and the pressure of living up to his own high standards. Yet, he persevered because he believed that the world needed what he had to offer. That unwavering commitment to his vision not only brought him back to Apple, but allowed him to lead the company into its most successful era. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was on the brink of collapse. Its products were scattered, its brand identity lost. Many doubted that Jobs could turn things around. But he didn't just revive Apple, he reinvented it. He streamlined the product line, introduced iconic devices like the iPod, iPhone, and MacBook, and transformed Apple into one of the most valuable companies in the world. This wasn't just a business comeback. It was a testament to the power of aligning work with purpose. It's worth noting that Jobs didn't just focus on technology. He cared deeply about the user experience, the intersection of art and technology, and creating products that were as beautiful as they were functional. His purpose wasn't just to make things, it was to make things better. That's why Apple's products weren't just tools. They were statements of innovation, simplicity, and elegance. Now let's bring this closer to home. Think about your own life. What is your purpose? What drives you to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against you? For many of us, the answer isn't immediately clear. But Jobs' story teaches us an important lesson. Your purpose doesn't have to be tied to a specific job, title, or achievement. It's about finding what lights you up inside, what makes you feel alive, and what allows you to contribute meaningfully to the world. Jobs' journey from a garage in Cupertino to the boardrooms of Silicon Valley wasn't just a story of success. It was a story of resilience, reinvention, and an unshakable belief in the power of purpose. He faced failures, setbacks, and even personal losses. Yet, every challenge he encountered became a building block for the future. That's the essence of living with purpose. It gives you the strength to turn failures into opportunities and passion into legacy. As Jobs himself once said, your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. Loving what you do doesn't mean every day will be easy. It means that even on the hardest days, you'll still have the fire to keep going because you know you're working towards something meaningful. So, as you reflect on Steve Jobs' journey, think about what drives you. What is it that you love so much that you do it even without a guarantee of success? That's where your purpose lies. It's not about avoiding challenges. It's about embracing them with the confidence that you're on the right path. And when you do, you just might find yourself creating something extraordinary, just like Steve Jobs did. Now, let's bring it back to you. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. Ask yourself, what's your purpose? It's a big question, isn't it? One that might even feel overwhelming. You're not alone in feeling that way. For many of us, the idea of purpose seems elusive, like some grand, unattainable goal reserved for visionaries and geniuses. But here's the truth. Finding your purpose isn't about suddenly waking up one day with a lightning bolt of clarity. It's not like flipping a switch. Purpose is a journey, a process of exploration, and sometimes it's found in the most unexpected places. Think about Steve Jobs for a moment. When he stumbled into that calligraphy class at Reed College, he had no idea how it would shape his future. He wasn't sitting there thinking, this will make me a tech visionary. He didn't even have a clear plan for his life at that point. But what he did have was curiosity and an openness to explore. He trusted the journey, even when the destination was unclear. And that's where the magic of purpose begins, not in certainty, but in exploration. Here's an important truth. Your purpose doesn't have to be groundbreaking or revolutionary to matter. It doesn't have to look like founding a $1 billion company or creating world-changing technology. Purpose is deeply personal. It could be teaching children, helping people solve their problems, writing stories, or simply creating something beautiful that brings joy to others. The real power of purpose lies in how it makes you feel. It's about finding something that lights a fire within you, something that makes you wake up in the morning with a sense of excitement and fulfillment. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. What are the things that bring you joy? What are the moments when time seems to fly because you're so deeply immersed in what you're doing? Purpose often reveals itself in these moments of flow where passion and skill meet. It could be as simple as cooking a meal that makes your family smile, mentoring someone who looks up to you, or finding creative ways to solve problems at work. Purpose doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It just has to feel meaningful to you. But let's be honest, finding purpose isn't always easy. Sometimes it feels like wandering in the dark, trying different doors to see which one opens. That's okay. The key is to keep exploring, to stay curious, and to follow the things that make you feel alive. Steve Jobs didn't know how the dots would connect when he was learning calligraphy or when he was fired from Apple. He simply trusted that the dots would connect someday, and he kept moving forward. You could do the same. Don't worry about having all the answers right now. Start with what feels right, and let your journey unfold naturally. And here's another important thing to remember. Purpose isn't static. It evolves as you grow and change. What drives you today might not be the same thing that drives you 10 years from now, and that's perfectly normal. Think about Jobs again. His purpose wasn't tied to one specific role or company. It was rooted in his belief in innovation, creativity, and making a difference. Whether he was building Apple, creating Pixar films, or designing the next groundbreaking product, his purpose stayed consistent, even as his projects evolved. So, how do you find your purpose? Start by asking yourself a few key questions. What are you naturally drawn to? What are the things that make you lose track of time? What kind of impact do you want to have on others? These questions might not give you immediate answers, but they'll help you start the process of discovery. Don't rush it. Purpose isn't a race. It's a journey. And if you're feeling stuck, that's okay too. Sometimes, purpose reveals itself in hindsight. It's only when you look back on your experiences that you realize how they've shaped you. Jobs didn't see the connection between calligraphy and computers until years later. But when he looked back, he understood how that seemingly random choice had been a key moment in his journey. Trust that your experiences, even the ones that seem insignificant now, are all part of the bigger picture. Here's a little exercise you can try. Take out a piece of paper and write down 3 things that genuinely excite or inspire you. Then, think about how you can bring more of those things into your life. It doesn't have to be a big, life-altering change. Even small steps can make a huge difference. If you love helping others, volunteer a few hours a week. If you're passionate about storytelling, start a blog or write a short story. Purpose often starts with small, consistent actions. And remember, your purpose doesn't have to align with anyone else's expectations. It's uniquely yours. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense to others or if it doesn't fit into society's definition of success. What matters is that it resonates with you. Jobs' purpose wasn't about meeting external expectations. It was about following his inner calling. That's what made his work so powerful, and that's what can make your life equally meaningful. So, as you sit with this question, what's my purpose? Give yourself the freedom to explore, to make mistakes, and to grow. Your purpose isn't something you find in a single moment. It's something you create over time. And when you find it, you'll know. It'll be that thing that makes you feel truly alive, the thing that makes you say, "This matters." Your journey to purpose may not be easy, but it will be worth it. Because when you align your life with your purpose, you don't just live, you thrive. You don't just exist, you make a difference. And that's the ultimate power of purpose. In 2005, Steve Jobs stood before a crowd of eager Stanford graduates, dressed not in the regalia of academia, but in his signature black turtleneck and jeans. What unfolded next was not a typical commencement speech, filled with platitudes or generic advice. Instead, Jobs delivered a deeply personal and profoundly inspirational message, a distillation of his life's hardest-earned lessons. He didn't speak as a billionaire or a tech visionary. He spoke as a man who had faced failure, loss, and even the looming shadow of death. His speech was raw, real, and unapologetically honest. Jobs shared 3 life lessons that day: connecting the dots, love and loss, and death. Let's start with the first, connecting the dots. Jobs explained how the seemingly random moments of his life, like dropping out of college or attending that calligraphy class, only made sense when he looked back. "You can't connect the dots looking forward," he said. "You can only connect them looking backwards." It's a reminder that life often doesn't make sense in the moment, but every experience, every choice, is part of a larger picture. Trusting that the dots will connect gives you the courage to follow your heart, even when the path isn't clear. Then came the lesson of love and loss. Jobs recounted the devastating moment when he was fired from Apple, the company he had poured his soul into. "I had been rejected," he said, "but I was still in love." That love for innovation, for creating, for his purpose, kept him going. It led him to start Next and Pixar, 2 ventures that redefined their industries and eventually brought him back to Apple. His message was clear. Even when life knocks you down, purpose and passion can help you rise again. "Love what you do," Jobs insisted, "because that love will sustain you when everything else seems to fall apart." But it was the third lesson, death, that struck the deepest chord. At the time, Jobs was still battling the cancer that would eventually take his life. He spoke about how confronting his mortality had been a catalyst for clarity. "Remembering that you are going to die," he said, "is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." He urged the graduates to live with intention, to make bold choices, and to let go of the fear of failure. "Your time is limited," he said, "so don't waste it living someone else's life." Pause for a moment and really think about that. How much of our lives are spent following what others expect of us? How often do we silence our own desires and dreams because they don't fit into someone else's vision of success? Jobs' words challenge us to break free from those constraints. Purpose, he believed, isn't something handed to you. It's not a checklist of goals or achievements dictated by society. Purpose is something you discover by being true to yourself, by listening to that inner voice that says, "This is who I am. This is what I'm here to do." Jobs' speech wasn't just a reflection on his own life. It was a call to action for everyone listening. He wasn't asking those graduates to become the next Steve Jobs or to replicate his journey. He was asking them to embark on their own journeys, to embrace the messiness of life, and to trust that their dots would eventually connect. His words were a reminder that purpose isn't about playing it safe or sticking to a pre-written script. It's about taking risks, following your passions, and carving out a path that is uniquely yours. And here's the thing. Jobs didn't just talk about these principles. He lived them. His life was a testament to the power of living with purpose and intention. From his early days in that garage with Wozniak to his triumphant return to Apple and the creation of products that changed the world, Jobs didn't let fear or doubt dictate his choices. He didn't settle for mediocrity or conformity. He lived boldly, authentically, and with a relentless drive to make a difference. But Jobs also understood that purpose isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's not about finding a single answer or achieving a single goal. It's about continuously asking yourself, what matters most to me? And aligning your life with that answer. It's about being willing to course correct, to start over, and to embrace the unknown. That's why his words resonate so deeply. They're not just advice for graduates. They're a blueprint for anyone seeking meaning and fulfillment. So, what does this mean for you? It means taking a step back and asking yourself the hard questions. Are you living for yourself or for someone else's expectations? Are you making choices that align with your values and passions? Or are you following a path that doesn't truly feel like yours? It means embracing the fact that life is short and precious, and every moment is an opportunity to move closer to your purpose. Jobs' speech at Stanford remains one of the most powerful expressions of purpose and authenticity ever delivered. It's a reminder that our greatest challenges, failure, rejection, even the inevitability of death, are not obstacles to living a purposeful life. They are catalysts. They force us to confront what truly matters and to live with greater clarity and intention. As Jobs concluded his speech that day, he left the graduates with a simple but profound piece of advice. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. It was a call to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep taking risks. Because in the end, purpose isn't about playing it safe. It's about living fully, passionately, and unapologetically. And that's a lesson we can all carry with us. Today, Apple stands as one of the most valuable and iconic companies in the world, a juggernaut of innovation and design. Its products are woven into the fabric of modern life. Sleek iPhones, elegant MacBooks, and versatile iPads. But if we look deeper, Apple's success isn't defined merely by its gadgets. It's not just the hardware or software that sets Apple apart. It's the why behind those creations. Steve Jobs' enduring legacy lies in the purpose that fueled the company's rise. The belief that technology, when crafted with care and intention, can make life simpler, more beautiful, and more connected. Jobs never saw technology as an end in itself. For him, technology was a tool, a means to enhance human experiences. He once said, "Technology alone is not enough. It's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the results that make our hearts sing." And that's exactly what he brought to the world. Every Apple product was designed with the user in mind, blending form and function in a way that made people feel empowered, understood, and even inspired. It wasn't just about selling devices. It was about creating experiences that resonated on a deeply personal level. Consider the iPod. When it launched, it wasn't the first MP3 player on the market, but it was the first that made listening to music feel effortless, intuitive, and joyful. 1,000 songs in your pocket, Jobs promised. And in doing so, he didn't just sell a product. He sold a vision of freedom and possibility. The same can be said for the iPhone. It wasn't just a phone. It was a reimagining of how people communicate, work, and create. Jobs' legacy wasn't in inventing technology. It was in imagining how that technology could elevate human potential. That vision, rooted in purpose, turned Apple into more than just a company. It became a movement. It became a brand that people didn't just buy into, they believed in. Apple users weren't just customers. They were part of a community, united by a shared appreciation for innovation, creativity, and simplicity. This didn't happen by accident. It was the result of Jobs' unwavering commitment to his purpose and his refusal to compromise on his principles. He believed that every detail mattered, that excellence wasn't negotiable, and that the end goal wasn't profits but impact. Now, imagine what could happen if you approach your life with that same sense of purpose. What could you create if you poured your heart into the things that truly mattered to you? What impact could you leave behind if you aligned your actions with a vision that was bigger than yourself? Jobs didn't succeed because he was chasing accolades or wealth. He succeeded because he was driven by a profound sense of why. He understood that the most meaningful work comes from a place of authenticity and passion. But let's be clear, living with purpose doesn't mean you have to start a global company or revolutionize an industry. Purpose isn't about scale, it's about significance. It's about finding something that matters deeply to you and pursuing it with everything you've got. For Jobs, it was blending technology with artistry. For you, it could be creating art, solving problems, mentoring others, or building something that brings joy or value to the world. The size of your contribution doesn't determine its worth. The intention behind it does. Take a moment to imagine the ripple effect of living with purpose. When you align your life with your values, you inspire others to do the same. Just as Jobs' vision inspired designers, engineers, and entrepreneurs around the globe, your purpose can spark change in the people around you. Purpose has a way of amplifying itself, spreading far beyond what you might initially imagine. That's the power of living with intention. It creates a legacy that outlasts you. Jobs' legacy at Apple wasn't just about products. It was about the mindset he instilled in the company. Even after his passing, that sense of purpose continues to guide Apple's innovations. The company's commitment to design, user experience, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible is a testament to the enduring power of a clear and compelling vision. Jobs' purpose didn't end with him. It became a part of the culture he built. So, what's the takeaway for you? It's this: purpose isn't just for visionaries or CEOs. It's for anyone who wants to live a life of meaning and impact. It starts with asking yourself the hard questions. What do I care about? What do I want to contribute to the world? What legacy do I want to leave behind? And it continues with the small, consistent choices you make every day. Choosing to prioritize what matters, to follow your passions, and to stay true to your values. In the end, the legacy of purpose isn't measured by the wealth you accumulate or the accolades you receive. It's measured by the lives you touch, the problems you solve, and the difference you make. Jobs' life was a masterclass in what's possible when you live with intention and align your actions with a clear sense of why. He didn't just build products. He built a philosophy of excellence, creativity, and human connection. Imagine living your life with that same clarity and commitment. Imagine waking up each day knowing that what you're doing matters, not just to you, but to the people around you. That's the power of purpose. It turns ordinary efforts into extraordinary outcomes and fleeting moments into lasting legacies. And the best part? That power is within your reach. You don't need to be Steve Jobs to live with purpose. You just need to be yourself, fully and unapologetically. So, as you think about your own journey, ask yourself, what's my why? And when you find it, hold on to it. Let it guide you, inspire you, and shape the impact you leave behind. Because when you live with purpose, you don't just create a life, you create a legacy. Purpose is the compass that guides you through life's uncertainties. It's what turns obstacles into opportunities and dreams into reality. So, ask yourself, what's my purpose? And remember, it's okay if you don't have the answer yet. What matters is that you start looking. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and live with purpose. What do you think? Does it capture the bold, inspirational vibe you wanted?